From the field to the front office, the property preservation world is moving fast. You're about to hear from industry insiders bringing you news and updates that contractors actually care about. If it's happening out there, you'll know it here.
Hello and welcome to the show today. We'd like to thank you for joining us. This is the Property Preservation Insiders. And today we're going to talk about what happens when your work site becomes dangerous and what to do. Plus, we have inflation, home sales, foreclosures, and even the McDonald's CEO. So stay tuned. I'm Alan, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Brian and Mary.
Yes, my name is Brian Poole. I am a property preservation industry veteran. Been doing this industry for 14 years now in the wonderful state of Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Mary Steele. I've been in the industry around 4 years, owner of Steel Preservation.
And so let's get into the news today. A lot of interesting things. Let's start it off with home sales. Less than expected in April. I know it's May already, but this stuff does take some time to get out. But this is from Mortgage Point, where they talk about how our home sales are much less than we expected for the annual rate. Let me find the exact numbers here, where sales fell 3% in the month of March. So what do you guys think that means for homeowners and foreclosures, and how do homeowners help themselves when we got this kind of economy and everything's not going the greatest for a regular person? How can our listeners, the homeowners, protect themselves from foreclosures and eventually meeting you guys maybe one day?
I can sum that up in one very simple thing. Stop wasting your money. Too many people in today's society are built into the throwaway generation, where things we purchase are cheap and fast, and when they break, they throw away, and then we feel the need to go buy more. I cannot tell you how many times we go into these properties and the things that are left behind are the timeshare, the paperwork for the timeshare, the expensive car they couldn't buy or couldn't afford, but they wanted to feel better about themselves. We end up losing their home. Ultimately, the biggest thing is preparation, preparing yourself financially, and also make sure you just watch your credit cards, watch what you're buying, because obviously, if you are spending all of your money on junk, we show up and take back your home.
Yeah, from Fox Business, they're talking about how foreclosures hit the highest level in 6 years.
Foreclosures are one of those.
19,000 properties were foreclosed on in the first quarter.
Yes, and that is actually the ones that are in foreclosure. That is not the pre-foreclosure process either, or the abandoned homes. That data is always more difficult to find. But at the end of the day, the reason why, again, one of the reasons that the foreclosures are hitting the highest rate is, again, people are still being squeezed out between everybody else increasing their prices due to tariff demands, due to supply chains, and also just corporate greed is another big one. It puts us into a point where we are going through this, shall we say, birthing process of pain, which is the pricing reset. That's one thing too, that we are never going to see the price points we saw 5 years ago at 2.5% interest rates. We're never going to see those pricings. The price points, as Fox News puts it, it's just life. Lifed, and here the new prices are. The new market is more towards the amenities, the perks, negotiations, and before, where the sellers would never be able to move, now the sellers are more happy to meet the buyers in the middle to get the properties off the market, getting out of their hair. So they don't end up with a second home that has to be foreclosed on because they can't afford it. They're understanding the facts that prices are too high at 7% interest. People don't buy those houses. And also, one big thing that the market is going to start seeing here in spring. You're going to start seeing a small uptick in the sale of homes because those new homes that the foundations were laid in December and January, they're starting to get those constructed. So we're going to see an uptick on those new home sales opposed to the existing home sales. That's going to be another critical number to look at. Now, that also affects our industry because sometimes those people buy that brand new home because it's wonderful. It's got the granite countertops, it has the talking toilet, and it's got speakers in every room. Well, that's great, but if they can't sell their previous home, sometimes they have to go into a foreclosure. They walk away from them, and that also can cause an uptick in our industry as well.
Yeah, every home should have that talking toilet. It's very entertaining. So
It is. It is. It is. It beats Siri for
now here's
sure.
the real question. You have the home sales less than normal. You have the foreclosure rate highest in 6 years. You have what, $5 gas, milk. I'm sure is. I think the last time I bought milk was like almost close to $5 as well.
Yeah.
You have food prices. I mean, a year ago, I used to be able to go for $50 and get enough, snacks for the week and stuff. Now I'm almost spending $100 no matter what I get at the grocery store.
Mhm.
So you have all that. Is all these signs like going to trend to more stability in the housing market? Because people are going to be more willing to maybe try to survive and maybe just not pay their mortgages. Is that what we're looking at then? And then like, is that going to like crash the entire market in general? What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I'm sure it all plays a part in it.
Well, you have kids, Mary.
I do. I have
I'm sure
2.
it's like I have kids too. Um, Brian's kids are a little bit older than ours, but like I'm sure my kids like love junk food and love all the sweets and
Yeah.
everything. And sometimes it's getting harder to buy all that stuff at the grocery store. It's like, where do you find the line? Like, do I pay my mortgage this month or do I buy groceries? That's where it really comes down to it.
Yeah, there for a while, it was a struggle. It's like, do I pay my internet bill this week or do I buy extra groceries for the kids? Thankfully, we do shop at like Aldi and stuff, and their prices are much better than like Walmart or Giant or Wise. Very big fan of Sam's Club. When you have kids, buy bulk because they go through it. Um, But yeah, sometimes with the way the economy has been, you have to do, I do this week or this week.
So do we think that's going to end up with a lot more work for you guys and a lot more for foreclosures down the road? I mean,
If
we're
these
already hit the
prices keep rising, I would absolutely say yes, because things are getting unmanageable, like $5 for a gallon of milk, $5 for a gallon of gas, but the pay is not going up. People are not getting paid more than what they were, but everything else around them is going up.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's
that's
also
the
it's one of those things talking about gas is that is one of the bigger aspects, in my opinion, that really drives any market increase because everything you touch, whether it be the drywall, the carpets, your your bedroom sheets, your pillows, the gallon of milk, the strawberries in the field, um, even commuting back and forth to your own job. But all of everything revolves around oil. And that is one big thing that drives the downfall of the economy because once diesel goes so high, now the trucking companies, the freight companies increase their pricing. And again, the prices increase down the line to the consumer. So that's one thing also to keep an eye on is that remember, gas might jump overnight, but your cereal does not. Somehow magically, those companies never seem to lower their prices fast enough when they get upticked from gas. They never seem to drop their pricing quick enough. But that's going to be one big thing too is watching the gas market because as those fuel prices adjust, that's also going to bring down those pricing of the goods and services that we have, and that really affect our day-to-day expenditures. So, but once with our entire issue that we have in Iran right now, that obviously the speculation of the marketplace and a lot of other stuff that is way above my pay grades going on, that's what's really affecting our price points now. The bigger thing is the inflationary aspects that we talked about. The $5 gas, the $5 milk, is at a temporary base for the issue going on in the Middle East, or is that going to be a long-term impact? That is really the question to ask, because that, if it becomes a long-term project or a long-term issue, then that will start affecting those homeowners, because again, you either have to pay groceries or pay a mortgage. Well, obviously, if you can't pay a mortgage anymore because your food prices are going up, you're going to look for someplace cheaper to live. And therefore, then we would have to come in and deal with the situation and increase foreclosures. So that's another big uptick to look for and see what goes on with that. Are we talking about a temporary thing the economy can deal with, or is it going to be long-term effects that's going to cause more drama than it's worth?
Yeah, even the CEO of McDonald's said that consumer spending that could be getting a little bit worse. So if McDonald's and some of these other places, regular consumer businesses are saying that things might get worse, we might be looking into a little bit more of a some hard time the rest of the year, put it that way.
Unfortunately, that is very true. And that's one thing where McDonald's did suffer a good bit from the fuel issues and from the inflationary aspects also. But they also kind of figured out that with their price increasing and them not adjusting the pricing as fast as they increase it, a lot of consumers are also being discredited or being disheartened from that. They figure, why go spend $50 or $75 on fast food, and that's where another thing, people are being more picky about what they buy and how they spend their money.
Oh yeah, a lot of people have vowed off McDonald's. There was a period there, I'm not sure you guys remember, where
Hmm.
McDonald's prices rose faster than anyone else. I mean, you could go to a restaurant cheaper than McDonald's, and now they're kind of like facing some of the backlash from that.
And that's what I was getting into, is kind of that corporate greed. They're really quick to update those prices, but they're not faster to reset those prices. They're just eating that profit margin up. Actually, there was a company set forth that, forgive me, I read an article. There was 3 or 4 companies that basically the CEOs got together and they price gouged the American populace. They figured, hey, if we all keep our prices high, then everybody wins. And eventually, the government found out about that, and actually, the CEOs are coming up with a plea deal, and they have to pay a 50, $60 million fine. That didn't help the person buying their product. But that also gets into is that sometimes when inflation happens, is it really inflation, or is it really some price gouging in there, or is it a little bit of both? you know. But that's one thing that's kind of going on in the housing market, which is slowing it down too a little bit, is prices are still extremely high. The people that had money a few years ago, when they were waiting for the perfect time to hit the interest rates to hit just right before they buy again, some of those people are now coming back onto the market. Now, one key thing too is the Fed chairman. He is set to retire literally this week. He's supposed to stay on as an advisor, but again, there's been a lot of politicalness in between the treasury rates and this administration. So, kind of interested to see what happens with that, because if the administration can lower our interest rates to a more affordable point, that will stir a massive amount of home sales. HUD, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, which we spoke about last time on the last show, they made a massive reset into their requirements for home purchases. So they're trying to stir up growth into the lower sector of people. We're not talking the people, you know, with $100,000 in the bank and an 850 credit score. We're talking about the average everyday person with $5,000 or $10,000, if you're lucky in today's economy, you know, and a 600, you know, 550, 600 credit score rating. So they're trying to stir it up. Now the question is, do they lower the rates or lower the requirements so much where we start running into an issue like we had in '08? You know, let's time travel back to '08 and let's go buy a $500,000 house. Are we ready? Oh wait, you have a pulse. Here's a check, 500,000. You don't have a job? Don't worry about it. You can find one. And by the way, here's 0.01% interest that you have for 4 years, and after that, you're at 9%. That's what literally caused our first crash. There was so much deregulation that the U.S. tax dollar, the U.S. taxpayer, excuse me, picked up the tab while the CEOs and those mortgage brokers are now sitting on their own private island. So again, another thing to look for is in those deregulations to offset the pricing points. Are we going to create a perfect storm, or are we going to slowly fix the process and work our way out of the mess? Time will tell.
Yeah, so as all three of us are business owners. So as a small business owner, like I know for myself, like I've went through, made sure there's no subscriptions, that I was using everything, got rid of anything I didn't want to, had some old equipment, tried to get rid of some of that. As a small business owner, how to prepare for like the pricing and possibly the incoming pricing increases? Is there anything you guys do specifically?
I haven't been in business that long. I don't have a lot of the extra expenditures like Brian does. I have very few. Um, I budget, and make sure that everything is paid before or on the due date. Um, Now, when it comes to Brian's company and his expenditures, like that's a much wider variety of things that need to be paid. We try to stick with the most important stuff first, and just kind of take it from there. I do know, like, when the industry was incredibly slow from November, December till, I would say, pretty much maybe the middle of last month. You just kind of have to,
Wing it.
yeah, pick out
And
the
that,
important stuff, the stuff that you know you're absolutely going to have to pay, and just do what you can with what you have.
and that's one thing, like, no one predicted COVID. No one did. Everything was happy-go-lucky, and then the next day, there's a few cases, and now all of a sudden, the entire world's getting shut down. And that's one thing, there's no possible way for a small business owner to truly foresee and negotiate and move through every scenario possible. And that's one thing that's the good and bad of being a small business owner is finding your niche, finding your business, growing it to a position where you have multiple streams of income, multiple things that you can do. And even in our industry is the same way. Um, and then do your best you can. Save your money, budget, save your money and budget, and prepare for the storm. And even in our industry too, you know, we do work with vacant homes, but there is commercial applications. You know, there are different clients that you can work for. There are different avenues you can go. Example, if you focus or you have the ability to do trash outs for banks and to have debris removal, well, open that up to the general public. um, Create an ad, create a Facebook page, create something and open those services up and tweak it. So no matter whether you're lean in the preservation business or you're lean in the homeowner business, you're being smart and effective across the board for everything. And you have multiple streams of income.
Yeah, it's kind of like that don't put all your eggs in one basket kind of thing, because if one of your avenues veers off down a bad road, you still have these over here as kind of like a safety net.
And that's what happened with this industry too. Back in, again, June of 2025, excuse me, April. Elon Musk came in with Doge. They found a bunch of stuff. They shut down HUD, disrupted the entire marketplace of foreclosures or the work that we receive. And then they basically kicked out everybody up the top end and hired new people and literally disrupted the entire foreclosure industry. But hopefully, at least, hopefully the processes were streamlined. At least something good hopefully came out from it. But again, it's in our industry, the smaller contractor, the single person or the 5 to 10 group can never achieve a larger scale contract like our industry holds, like a HUD contract, a VA contract, FHA contract. You're just too small. So they work with a larger company. They get the contracts, they get the larger contracts from the banks, from the investment groups, from HUD, from FHA, from VA, et cetera, et cetera. And then they disperse work out to the smaller contractors, such as myself, such as Mary's company. And, that's how we generate our business. Now, when there's a disruption in that flow, like a COVID moratorium or hey, we found a bunch of fraud and waste, we're going to fire everyone and rehire a bunch of people. Yeah, it causes some trauma in our industry, even though we are a government regulated, a government funded, in a sense, industry. Yeah, you still run into hardships. You still run into issues. I mean, you think about it too, even a big government contractor had to shut down during the different government shutdowns they have. They had to shut down. They couldn't produce. They couldn't do anything because their contracts weren't paying. So even though it is a large industry, we still have our hiccups. We still have our things. But the good news about the foreclosure business and dealing with this is, number one, you are helping your community. You are taking that eyesore away from in our communities, and you're dealing with the situation. You're making that house look good again. Um, you are providing that public service. You're making money in the process. And the other thing is that unfortunately there always will be foreclosures, always, and someone has to deal with them.
Now for a little more tragic topic for this morning. Probably one of the things we're going to delve into is, it doesn't say property preservation employee, but it does say a Virginia man was killed working for the mortgage company. And it talks about how he was going in here and changing the lock. So I would think that the property preservation company, and apparently, I guess the homeowner um, confronted him, and the police found him shot dead in the driveway. So that brings on some real question. This is right here in Virginia, not too far from us. So the real question is, as a property preservation contractor, like, is the area you work at safe? I mean, is this something we have to worry about? Does everyone need to start carrying a gun or mace or something like that to protect themselves? What would you do? Well, first off, I guess when you go to a property, what's the main concern for, like, safety if you've never been to that property before?
Well, for someone that has done this for a very, 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 very long time, from inner cities to countryside, um, the one thing that is unfortunate about this story is training, training, and training. I have personally done 6 to 7,000 houses at least, at minimum, where we have done what we call an initial secure initial services. If you read your mortgage company, if you read your mortgage, it says, if you stop paying us and you abandon the property, we are coming in. And it's a legal process. What we do is perfectly legal. If you're not paying your bill and you abandon that piece of real estate, the bank that loaned you money has a financial obligation and a moral obligation too to deal with the mess that you're leaving behind. And for whatever reason, like I say, I've said this a million times, great things happen to horrible people, and horrible things happen to great people. Just because you might go through a foreclosure or you go through a car repossession, it's not a personal thing. It just life happens sometimes. We don't like it, we don't want it, but it happens. But at the end of the day, the gentleman lost his life because he went into a home to change locks and he did not do his due diligence and he was not trained properly. This is the most dangerous aspect of our job, not swinging from a roof or cutting down a tree, is this. We literally enter a home, we break into the home, we pick the lock, we drill the lock out, we enter the property. So that way we can go in and find out what's going on with the property. Property preservation, protect and preserve. PNP, that's what it stands for, to protect and preserve the asset. So we have to go into the property to remove the rotten food to see if there's a cat or a dog or a squirrel to winterize the property, to pump all the water out of the system so that way it doesn't flood, it doesn't freeze damage and create a massive issue for the 3 row homes attached to it. We cut the grass to make sure it doesn't become a rat infested, snake infested lot. We deal with the situation so that way it is not a plight on the neighborhood, and also the little bit of mold or the broken window doesn't turn into a disaster that would impact the bank's bottom line and the bank and the bottom line in the bank sheet. So uh, that's what we do. What kind of indicators were in this situation? Did he follow the proper steps that we train staff to do? Did he follow all the proper procedures and the red flags? It's unknown. But literally, the gentleman was at his house doing his thing, the homeowner, and here it is, some guys breaking into his house and entering his home. The homeowner didn't know what was going on. He thought it could have been a breaking and entering. He thought it could have been a robbery of some kind. Thought it could have been a vandalism of some kind, not realizing who, the what, the where, the when. But training, 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 training. And for someone that has done thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of securings, I will tell you this. I have never, ever, ever broken into a house and had someone there. It's that simple. You just walk away. If there's any indicators, any questions, you just walk away.
Now, speaking of training, first off, I guess you think that should be a mandatory for like every company? Should that be something that maybe the state that you live in gets involved as well, where maybe you go get trained at the police with the police, or should there be other facilities available from the state that can help the property preservation industry? Is there anything that can better equip you guys for a situation like this?
Unfortunately, this is a very unregulated industry. We are all independent contractors, so technically nothing can be mandated. You can't tell someone how to do a job and then expect them to be a subcontractor. It doesn't work that way. But also, more importantly, is there is no training. There is no great course out there yet that truly offers a heads up, an idea, a concept, a realization of all the things that this industry can do, good and bad. Um, like I said before, been doing this for 14 years, and I would not trade it for the world. I love every second of it, and I hate every minute of it. So go figure that one out. But it is an interesting lineup of work. But unfortunately, the states don't care. It's not a federal thing. They have rules, but common sense and training is not one of them. They want you to do this, 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 but they don't care how you get there.
Are there any common red flags that you guys, when you get to a property, maybe you see lights on, or how would you tell that someone's a squatter or like a former resident still in the house?
There's a lot of different indicators that, especially if you've been in the industry for a longer amount of time, they pop out a little more. Are the blinds drawn? Is usually is the power on, power off. That can help, not always, but sometimes. Lights on. In the winter, if you see tire tracks, footprints in the snow, if you see new trash laying around, like there's different small little things that you can look for around the house that will kind of add up to, okay, there's been recent activity here.
Do you guys know of any like technology tools or anything like that could help contractors in some situation like this?
They just came out with a very new tool. It's actually this year. It's this. You go up to a door and you do this. You knock. 9 times out of 10, someone in the neighborhood knows the people. They know what's going on. People love to talk about people, and that's one of the key indicators is ask. Talk to the neighborhood because the other thing is as you are on the property, you want the neighborhood to go, you want the neighbors to feel comfortable if some guy crawling through a window or some person up there cutting grass, they're going to be curious the who, what, why, and where. And it also gives you an opportunity, number one, to introduce yourself, to talk, to help the person with any questions they might have. Because again, how many people live through live next to a foreclosure property? But you can give some information, who to call if there's issues and drama, what you're here for, what you're going to be doing, letting them know, there might be other people here, and always stay vigilant. And again, if you see any questions, you have any problems, call the police. Um, but that's one of the biggest technologies. There is no way, there is no website, there is no great thing that tells what Bob does in on Main Street. We have all kinds of different software. We have all kinds of different things that we utilize to kind of track to see what's going on with the different people. Where are they at? Did they change addresses? Did they pass away? Were they in jail? Did they get involved in a car accident? Google is a wonderful thing if you know how to use it. You just got to use it. Same thing too. The knock. It's a great thing. Talk to the neighbors. But the other big thing is common sense. There is no technology for that, but it's common sense. If it doesn't feel right, leave. The bank will not be upset. The bank will not um, send a team of people out to spank you. All you need to do is inform the bank and the client of what's going on and walk away. And then a month, they might send someone else. They might send another person next week. But the point is, you're not going to end up shot. You're not going to end up dead. You're not going to end up getting into a fight and injuring someone or injuring yourself for a job. And that's all this is. This is not security. It's just a job. And again, from someone that has been down in the deepest, darkest parts of our cities and society, I have never had to pull a weapon on anyone. Don't feel the need for it. It's a job. You walk away. Something personal. I've been at houses where the people ended up coming back. They were in California for 5 years dealing with a family medical issue. So the property went into foreclosure. It didn't go through a sheriff's sale yet, so it still belonged to the person. So the bank had not finished the judgment. But at the end of the day, what happened was the people came back from California. They laid a big old fat check in front of the bank manager and said, "Hey, give me my house back." And the dude moved back into his house. That's it. It's real simple. Um, this is nothing personal. Don't act like it. It's just a job.
Now, speaking about that, so when you get to your property, you assess it, or I'm not sure the exact terminology, and then is there any things where any areas maybe where I'm not sure if you guys allowed to call the police? Are you allowed to uh, will the police give you any answers about the property if you guys call, or is it just a like a hard wall between you and the authorities?
Technically, the police ask if you're going to enter a property. They do ask that you call and notify them, just so that way if they get calls, they know what's going on. From time to time, I've done that before in the past where I've called the local law enforcement, but 9 times out of 10, No one calls, and that's why you talk to your neighbors, you talk to the neighborhood. No one's going to call the cops, so they know what's going on, and they already know that Bob and Helen Smith moved out of the house last month. They know they've been out of the house. They know the house stinks, and hopefully you're there to clean it up, so they like you. So, but no, I mean, technically, a one rule of thumb is if you are in a high crime area, yes, you do notify your local police. You always print out your work orders. You always have your work orders available. Now, I will say I've had my run ins with police officers. I've had my run ins with law enforcement doing their job. They don't know me, so they don't know what's going on. And yes, we were in a home and it was during the winter time, but it was like 6 o'clock, which is still not late, but of course it gets dark at, 2 o'clock in December. So, yeah, we were confronted by police. And again, they wanted to know what was going on, but with shirts, identification, business cards, work orders, if you're legit, you're legit. You're this there doing a job, and you just have to quell their suspicion, let them know everything's good to go. They go about their business.
Now with the economy, with the prices and everything, I'm sure a lot of people are starting to hate their mortgage company. People already showing a lot of resentment to rich people and things like that. Um, do you guys see that? The former homeowners like hate you guys, discourage you guys, fight you guys because you're basically working for the mortgage company, the company they've grown to hate now that they're taking their house from them?
We don't really come in contact with the previous homeowners that much. Um, there's been maybe a handful of times where they've showed back up and some people are not happy about it, but what you don't pay your mortgage, your house gets taken. I mean, what do you expect? If you don't pay your bill, it's not yours anymore. You don't pay your electric gets shut off. It's kind of common sense, but we don't really come in contact with them too much.
Yeah, I've had like one or two homeowners. Actually, I had one homeowner recently. The house was completely empty. They were renting it out, and they were just dealing with the mess to get the tenant out. But in the process, too, since the tenant wasn't paying the rent, they weren't paying the mortgage. So again, we were there. They finally got everything situated. And then we showed up. We did the initial secure services. We took care of the basic stuff. The house was completely empty. A week later, hey, give the lady your keys back. No problem. So had a wonderful conversation with her. So again, it depends on kind of different situations. This was their second home. Excuse me, they bought this house because of the mortgage and or because of the mortgage rates, because of the home prices, because of everything. They moved a distance away. They bought another house and they tried to sell it. They couldn't. Well, instead of just leaving it in the foreclosure, they went ahead and they had a renter come in and deal with it. And again, they had problems with the renter because the renter lost their job. And next thing you know, they're in this situation. They finally got the person out. They squared up with the bank. They got the house back. They're cleaning up right now, re-renting it. You have the other people where it was, mom and dad's house, grandma and grandpa's house. They passed away. They're just confused. Why are you there? Why are you there? Um, you get into those circumstances where there's a divorce, husband and wife hate each other, and they end up being fun. Um, but ultimately, people get their stuff and they leave and they move on.
Now let's switch back to inflation and everything because I had a few questions that I thought about while you guys were talking. So with inflation and the prices rising and everything, how does that affect you guys as a business? Like, are your do you guys raise your price on the mortgage companies? Or the mortgage companies take longer to pay? Um, how exactly uh, how exactly does that work?
Most of the stuff that we do, they have allowables and like standard rate. Um, there are certain things that we have started raising prices on just because gas is rising, dump fees are rising all over the country. Um, so there's certain things that we can up our prices on, but then other stuff, not so much because they have a standard set across the board on those certain items.
So the mortgage companies, are they pretty open to your price raising, or do you just have to justify that or fight for it?
Um, it depends. Some Sometimes they really fight you for it and they wanna cut your bids, and some of them they want to pay as little as possible. We also have other ones that, if you talk to your vendor manager, um if you talk to the person who covers or runs your area, and explain to them, this is this, you can try to get a price increase. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Um, Sometimes you got to fight for it. Sometimes you do.
The industry is getting to the fact that the prices that we come off of was set forth by HUD in 2016, was over 10 years ago. 10 years ago, different pricing, different world in my mind than it was now. So certain clients are getting to the point and they do understand that these are the costs and things are happening this way. And yes, pricing is starting to slowly come up. The bigger problem with this whole entire industry and the money is too many fingers in the pot. You have a bank, a national asset management company that has a 800,000 property portfolio. They go off of the price set forth by HUD in the M&M 2016 price point revision. Now you have a national servicing company. They take 25 to 35% off the top. But those companies also take more away on certain items, such as grass cuts. Well, pretty much everything across the board. They take another bit off because they have to pay another servicing company, where nobody is helping us with the price raising. Nobody is helping us with taking less. Now, actually, they're trying to take more. There are two national service companies that are worth, one of them just got sold, and all of their new vendors are 30%. There's another company that has been in the industry forever. Starts Yeah. But now they're also raising themselves to 30%. So the point I'm getting at is that gas is $5, lumber, rents, uh, insurance, software, tires, the bolts you buy, the tools you buy, the locks you buy, everything is going up by 40-50%, but the pay is not. So that creates a lot of issues. Number one, with the quality of work. Nobody wants to work for because they don't understand it. And number two, it also gets into, how can you find good contractors? How can you find good help if you don't pay the right amount of money? Because too many people are in the pot taking their bit. So it's not really inflation aspects. It's really an industry aspects of, it's always been this way and they need to revamp it. They need to change it. The government needs to come in and set obligations and requirements to receive money for those contracts, and they need to do better in that sense. Um, Mandating, okay, you are allowed to take this, you are allowed to take this, and this is what we're going to pay to prevent. And again, it also gets into your offshore marketing. You have so many companies out there that are getting paid millions of dollars, millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars, to send work to the local small one-man contractor, and then they don't even pay him because they don't have to, because that company is in Sweden, in Bangladesh, in India, in Dubai, in Germany, and to name a few where the call data centers are. But these companies start, fictitious companies in the United States, and they get these huge contracts. They give work to this local contractor, and they don't even pay the guy. That's another big industry issue too. There's a lot of things going on beyond an inflation or $5 gas. There are deeper, deeper industries, deeper problems in this industry.
Do you think that's something that could be solved with like legislation, or HUD mandating like U.S. companies, or I'm not sure how exactly you would put that.
Yeah, there needs to be a fresh look into the system, and also the CEOs of the large companies that are buying or getting these contracts need to also understand that the quality of work that you receive, the the quality of effort that you get all stems from money. But this is also a very lucrative industry. I have once again been in this industry for 14 years, and beyond the COVID issue and beyond, of course, the crash of 2026, I'm now calling it, inside of the preservation business, this is where the industry had a reset. This has always been a very, very, very profitable business, and you can make a ton of money, but you have to know the rules of the game. You have to have training. And that's what I was saying earlier. Training is key in this industry, because you cannot be a yard guy and be able to do all of this business. You cannot be a carpenter and know everything how to do in this business. And that's really interesting about this industry, is because we are pulled in so many different directions. We have to have so much skill in so many different areas. You don't need to be a master plumber, but you need to know how to do plumbing. You don't need to be a roofer, but you need to know how to patch a roof. You don't need to be a gutter installer, but you need to know how to install gutters. You don't need to be a locksmith, but you need to know how to get through a lock. So there's so many, many, many things that you need to do to be able to be that full service preservation company in this day and age, and to make money.
Now you speak about training and knowledge and everything. Um, is there a time when maybe you guys did a job and you didn't get paid, or got paid less than you thought because you didn't do it right, or you didn't do the right procedures? Is there issues like that have come up?
Mary, why don't you speak about our window back charge? You were heavily involved in that. Without
Yeah,
mentioning the company, please.
yeah, no, not naming any names. Um, but we went to a property, and when after you do the job that you are sent there to do, you take what the industry calls ICC photos. You're supposed to point out any and every problem that you can find, any issue, whether it be that vine is touching the house or you have rotting windows, whatever it is. Um, we were at this property dozens of times, and pictures were taken of a window to show that the windowsill, the window frame was rotting out. Pictures were sent to the client. The client was informed. They go through all of your pictures when you turn in your order. Oh, how long was it? About a year? Is that what it was?
It was more like 2 years, a year, 3/4, 2 years. I think
It
we're
was
pushing more of
it
that.
was yeah, it was
Yeah.
quite some time. They came back to us and was like, "You need to go fix this at cost. This is your fault. You never bid this." So we had to excuse me, we had to go back to the property and completely rip out the window and replace it at cost because they were saying we were at fault. Even though pictures were sent in to show that the whole windowsill was rotted out. That is something that if the bank finds something wrong, these mortgaging companies tend to like to find a scapegoat, and it's usually the contractors.
Is there anything to do to protect yourself from something like that, or
Photos, photos, photos. Make sure you bid anything and everything, no matter how small, how big, to cover yourself.
and I take it the software you guys use, like, keeps all that stuff in, like, an archive type of thing, so you can go back and
Yes.
look at all that information?
Yep.
Wow, something like a major issue could bankrupt a small company if something like that happened.
Unfortunately, Mary did forget something. You forgot the other half, the other part of the back charge beyond the fixing of the window at cost. So even though the house went through a HUD inspection and failed because of this window, so we of course went in and replaced the window for free. It was a several $100 window, and it was either you go do it or we're going to charge someone back to do it. We're going to charge you back and pay someone else to do it. Well, of course we're going to do it cheaper, so we did it. About 3 or 4 months later, how much they charged us back again for holding costs or carrying costs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You
I
forgot that
forgot
part.
about that. Yes, because this was considered an ICC issue, so they were getting fined because of curtailments is what it was. They were getting fined because of the window. So a few months later, they charged us back again a few $100s because of the fines. And this is also including fines from the date that we put the window in up until the day that we received the email. They were still adding up fines, even though we had already gone back to the property and completely replaced everything that needed to be replaced for that window. I completely forgot about that part.
So we were basically paying the insurance, the inspection fees, the loss, the interest of the mortgage. We were paying all of that stuff as a back charge because the house did not convey to HUD, which is a topic we'll get into later, but it didn't convey to HUD. So HUD didn't take the property over because of this window. So the client said, hey, that's your fault. Now, with that also being said, that is a horror story of the industry, and it does happen. As the show develops, I have a lot of funny other stories of the bank must have fell and hit its head on some of these houses. But at the end of the day, this gets into where the out of the 5 to 7,000 jobs we do per year, honestly, we get maybe one back charge every 2 years. Now that's critical because, as you said, a larger back charge, a larger thing could bankrupt an insurance company, could bankrupt the company itself, where it's all about training. It's all about photographs. It's all about knowing how and why to do what we do. Most properties, again, we take 600 to 700 photographs per property. Standardized grass cut, we take 100 pictures per property because our job as a technician working for the bank in this industry is to tell the story. Tell the story of the house. What's going on with it? What's happening with it? What does it need? What is going on? What are the major issues that the banks need to deal with? And that's where, again, training, training, training. You can figure it out and you can find it out. You can be like me and spend 15 years in the industry and learn it through the hard knocks, or you can do your research, get hooked in with a good company that will help you, train you, get you set up, and you can turn it into a multi-million-dollar business. Remember, there are always foreclosures. They always need to be worked on. The banks are struggling and trying to find good quality contractors because that stuff needs to be done. Because if it doesn't get done, then the cities take care of it, the boroughs take care of it, and next thing you know, the banks are getting fined and possibly facing condemnation on their pieces of real estate. Now they've got to go to court to deal with. So it's in the best interest of the bank to send companies out like mine, send companies out like Mary's to deal with the situation and do the job necessary.
Since the time and age we're in now, do you guys think that AI could help you in any of these processes? Or maybe AI could look over your pictures and say, maybe here's a problem we missed and we need to make a bid. Or from the other side, do you think of the mortgage company? You think they're using AI to process all the information and look for potential things that they could dispute with you guys?
I don't think AI is there yet.
No.
No. I don't think the photo recognition software and calculations could be addressed. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to get rid of the human interaction on the back end to make it so they don't need to hire so many people, sure. But my thing at the end of the day is you always need a person to do the work. And that's where, again, if you trust a computer to do the job, it's going to be a while before it gets it done right. There are much greater things I think they're trying to invest AI in than how to clean up a dirty house. But you never know. I'm waiting for a fleet of my Optimists to show up so that way I can put them to work, but they just haven't shown up yet.
Well, the mortgage companies aren't using AI to like process things or just like go over your guys' payments or price points or anything like that, are they at this point?
Not that
I'm not
we
sure.
know of. We've actually
Yeah.
gotten memos saying that we can't use AI for like our photos and stuff. Um, I do know there is a company that is doing that. I think we talked about that on the last episode. They are like if you need to call in from site to get something approved, they are using AI.
Yeah, I would think with the pricing and employment the way it is that a lot of these bigger companies are going to shift as much as they possibly can to some kind of AI type of system. If they could save $1 from hiring someone and you know, computerize everything, I'm sure that's their next stop.
Well, that's one interesting point too, is it's not so much paying for someone, but finding someone. That's the real question, because a lot of that data processing servicing has been shift offshore, even though they're not allowed to do that, which doesn't make any sense. So they have processing companies that work offshore because labor rate is cheap. So they train these people how to identify, how to look for things, how to write the bids, how to install it into the software. And then those same companies are being used by the national providers to look at the same photographs they're submitting for you. It's kind of interesting how that works. And then also some of your larger companies, they still work with individual people. So example, this one person will cover 4 states. This one person will cover the client in 17 states, but that client only has 5 properties per state, so it's manageable. But then also they have 100 clients, so they need 100 something people. So again, AI is not there yet. I'm sure it will be in time. I think we're probably about still 10 years out from a major breakthrough in this industry. Again, nobody likes to spend money in our industry. This is not a revolutionary thing. This is more low key. Um, there hasn't been a lot of breakthrough. There's not a lot of innovation. There's not a lot of attention because it's one of those industries you're repoing people's houses. It's not something you want to glamorize so much, I guess, and be on the CNN every night or on the news, from the new latest and greatest lockpick tool.
Yeah, that makes you wonder, like, how could like I work in e-commerce. We have tons of complaints about this thing is not this size. It doesn't look like the picture when I bought it. How does that necessarily work with someone in another country looking at a photograph, trying to interpret this information when a lot of times you don't really know the situation until you're actually there in person?
Well, Mary answers about 800 of those emails every day, so maybe she can shed some light on that.
If they have any questions, they they send photos, they send emails, they'll make phone calls. One of the biggest things that helps with this is our contractors, our boots on the ground, putting notes in, making sure that the things that they point out in their photos, they mention in their notes. So that way, when the orders are submitted, those notes are submitted with the orders to kind of explain and break things down of what exactly needs to be done. This is why we bid this. This is how it needs to be fixed. This is the materials that are needed. Um, So a lot of it does come down to talking with your contractor and having that kind of communication, because again, there are times that even when I look at a photo, and I've been looking at photos, millions and millions of photos for quite a few years, and sometimes it's like, what are they pointing at? What is that? So they are the best ones to know. So notes, notes, notes in your orders always help.
Well, I'm not sure if you guys have anything else for today, but I think that might be a wrap. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
See what goes on for the rest of the month as far as home prices and home sales and our stock market, and we'll see what happens.
Did you guys want to share your information?
My website is steelpreservationllc.com and Steel Preservation LLC on Facebook.
Yes, elitepreservation.com, and we are Elite Preservation on Facebook also, and all socials.
Wait to thank you guys for joining us today, and do us a favor, please. It really helps us out if you'd like the stream. If you leave a comment, we will definitely answer you. Be sure to follow us at Property Pres Insiders on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Visit our website at propertypreservation.com, propertypreservationinsiders.com. And we also have a Facebook group. We're trying to build a good community, helpful community, not some of these Facebook preservation groups that are horrid. So we want to try to build a great place to have discussion about the property preservation industry. And until then, we will see you next week. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to follow us and share it with your friends. Got questions? Go to our website, propertypresinsiders.com, and join our Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you.